Right, so let's crack on with our phone, and we'll create this little section here at the bottom and start then putting on some icons. So I'm going to use a rectangle for this bit down the bottom, and I'm going to just make it a solid colour to start with. So we'll go for a blue. It's not going to make a big deal what I choose here because we're going to use another one of the inbuilt styles. I am going to give it a little bit of rounded corners on there because I think that's what's required. Now if you remember where your styles are, if you don't, I'll just remind you, it's up here in Window and Styles. You may already still have the styles that are on the right hand side, and this time I'm going to use pastels, and this is really up to you to have a little play around with, and you can pick the one that you prefer. And actually all that this is doing is it is setting a preset. This is a linear, and if you look, it's set 2 colours for you. So if you're very creative and you're good at art and you really have a good understanding of colour, you can do all of this yourself. But for those of us who are a little bit more challenged in the art department, we rely, or I certainly do, on some of these inbuilt things to give me the effect that I'm after. So that's up to you to have a little play around and see what you can do and how realistic you can make it. So for this square above it, well, I could just play around a little bit with these things and get whichever way I want it. Now you can still play around with these things like this, so I can make it a little bit like that. I need to, Control Z, remember to undo something, make it a little bit rounded as well. Okay, so that'll do for me for mine. I might fade that out a little bit, just maybe a bit dark. What do you think? Well, it's like I say, it's not very good for perfectionists. You get quite okay, I quite like that. Okay, so now let's create some of these icons, and it's really not as complicated as you might think. You know where the rounded rectangle tool is, so let's create a rounded rectangle, and you know where the styles are, you know how to resize things, so I might make that just a little bit smaller. Maybe I'll make it a square. Do you think it's a square? I don't think it is. I think it's wider than a square. Maybe a little bit. Okay, and I think I'm going to use a plastic style. If you have a look in here, you have got some really nice looking things that will really go well on your phone. I think that needs to be a bit taller. Maybe it needs to be something like that. Yes, maybe that's right. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Control C and Control V. Now, if you remember from a previous tutorial, when you paste in fireworks, it goes on top. So using the arrow key, it helps keep it in line. I shall move it along there, and I shall just have a little play around with which ones I want to have on there. And then Control C, Control V. Now sometimes the keyboard in fireworks does stop working. I'm not sure why, and then you'll need to use the right click and copy functions instead. Now I think I haven't got room for 4, so mine must be too big. Essentially they are too big, so I probably need to zoom in and have a proper play with it. So it looks too big, but what's that? I've got an extra one there, I think. There we go. So what's that one? 35 by, it says 25 by 21. 25 by 25. I'm going to go for a square after all. Okay, so this, as you see, is how I've made my, or haven't made my, this is how you're going to make your buttons for your phone. I'm really not happy with these, but as I'm recording I'll have to leave them as they are. And then, I'm sure that's wrong now, isn't it? 25 by 25. Okay, so then we will put a little bit of text on, and then we will put a little bit, we will put some icons and things on. Right, well they're not in line anymore, we'll worry about that later. Okay, so there are my first 4 buttons. Now when I start to zoom in, Control plus remember, it will start to go a bit blurry, so don't worry about that. That is going to happen when you zoom in. So, text tool is here, the T tool. Okay, and as soon as I click on it, I've got my properties down the bottom. So I'm going to set it to solid. Where's solid? Oh, here. Solid, and I'm going to set it to white. I want white text. And here are all of your fonts. Oh, these are all of your fonts, and I'm going to have that one, I think. And so I will write write mail here, nudge these around. That may actually be too big given that we are zoomed in, so there we go. You can copy and you can paste and add the text that you want. Okay, so phone. Okay, so I'm just going to play around with that. So that's what you need to do next, is to put in this bottom bar, and then you need to put in some buttons.